Power to plug in, making a consumer power generator as easy to install as a toaster. In this presentation, solar panels are going to be used as the example, but this solution really applies to any power source: hybrid cars, wind generators, portable gas generators, any power source. So what's the difference between installing a solar panel versus installing a toaster? Solar panels require building permits, engineering drawings. You have to get permission from the utility company. They are not plug and play, and they are definitely not a consumer appliance that you can just go down to the store and purchase and install. So why do you need all the extra stuff? Safety is the reason. You don't want to electrocute power workers during a power outage. So if a power worker is going to work on the power lines, they would disconnect from the power station for repairs. If the house is putting power onto the power line, the power coming from the house is going to electrocute the power worker. Power to plug in would disconnect the house when the grid is offline. And this basically prevents the power worker from getting electrocuted. So your typical solar power system has four components that attach to the main power grid. There's the power supply device. There's the thing that converts the power into something that can be used by the power grid. There's the protection mechanisms, and then there's the isolation from the power grid when needed. So how do you convert these four components into a consumer appliance type installation? You would take the power generator and make it a UL listed consumer appliance that will not operate without the approved safety device. The approved safety device would have to be installed by a licensed electrician and approved by the power company, same as any circuit breaker that you currently have in your home today. So you rearrange the components. The electrician installs the safety components, and then the consumer can install the power generator. Protection and isolation performed by the electrician with the device that they install. Power conversion and also some protection would be in the appliance that the user can buy from a store. So safety has to be upstream of the power source. You can install the safety at the power meter, or you could swap out the main circuit breaker. You could swap out a branch circuit breaker. It doesn't matter where you have the safety device as long as it is upstream of the power generator. All the technology needed for power to plug in exists today. It just needs to be combined appropriately. Essentially, you need a circuit breaker to provide the isolation, power grid detection to know whether the power on the power lines is there or not, so that you know whether you need to isolate or not, micro-inverters, which convert DC to AC and put that onto the power line communication so that the appliance can communicate with the safety device, and then you need some methodology for confirming that the generator is actually downstream of the safety device. So one of the questions is, what if you have too many generators? And the answer is, circuit breakers trip on high power flow. It doesn't matter which direction. So if you have a 20 amp circuit breaker and you put 40 amps worth of power through it, it doesn't matter that you're pushing the power or pulling the power, the circuit breaker is going to trip. So you're protected with a normal circuit breaker. How do you detect a power outage? The typical methodology is that for a few milliseconds on each cycle of the alternating current, you don't put power onto the grid, and instead you pull power from the grid. And so basically you have the safety device watching to make sure that at least one part of the cycle has it where power gets pulled from the grid. If that doesn't happen, then you know that there's no power on the grid. Microinverters are fairly new. Essentially the idea is that you have one power converter per one solar panel, and it takes the DC, converts it to AC, and puts it onto the power line. In-Phase Energy makes a microinverter that attaches to the grid. Xantrex makes a power converter that doesn't attach to the grid, but the technology is pretty much the same. Solar Edge makes a device called the Power Box, which is sort of a hybrid of the two. It's got components that attach to the solar panel, and then it has one massive converter that puts it onto the grid. You can also go to Radio Shack and buy something that converts your car battery into AC that your any appliance can use. So the idea of a small inverter is very common. Technologies for communicating via power lines are very common also. There's X10, LawnWorks, HomePlug, and a whole host of other technologies. So how do you confirm that the power generator is actually protected when the safety device can actually be communicating with it and not have to be upstream? So in this situation, the safety is upstream and it can provide protection. But what if the safety device is on another branch circuit and it's not protecting the power generator? The power generator can still talk to it, but it's just not protected by it. So how do you confirm that the safety is actually upstream of the power generator? Well, it's actually fairly simple. It's the same way you confirm which light switch is connected to which light bulb. You would turn the light on, turn the light off. Your protection basically would say, send me a message using on-off switching, and if it can detect the power changes, it would know that the generator is downstream of it. So let's look at some typical scenarios. There's the normal operation that you would normally expect people to use this with. There's the operation where there's no grid power, but you still want to power devices that are in your home, and you want to turn this generator on. And then there's the concept of, I have a generator, I plug it in, and I'm not supposed to do that. I want the power safety device to prevent that from electrocuting the power worker. So under the normal operation, you plug in the power generator. It requests permission to supply power from a safety device that it assumes must be upstream of it. It does the confirmation by turning power on and off, using power so that it draws power through the safety device. And then the safety device, once it knows that it's protecting this power generator, would give it permission to supply power. And then the power generation device would supply power to the circuit. That's the normal operation. So what if you don't have any grid power? Well, you would plug in the power generator and it would detect that there's no voltage. It would supply a low voltage to power up the safety device. The safety device would operate off of this very low voltage, and it would isolate itself from the power grid. Then you go through the normal request permission, confirm permission, receive permission, and then generate power. So in the unapproved generator situation, you would plug in the non-conforming power generator, and it would supply power to the grid. The safety device, though, is going to detect this power flow and realize that it hasn't given permission to a device to be able to do that, and it would isolate itself from the grid and thus protect the grid from this unapproved generator. Power to plug in has quite a few advantages. One of them is that people buy and install appliances in hours, and engineered systems can take months to get installed. You can go to the store and buy an appliance and take it home and plug it in, but there's very few stores that sell an engineered solar panel system. You have to talk to engineers, you've got to get permits. It's a long, involved process. The standards and certifications would transfer the building permits from the consumer, who currently would have to achieve these, to the manufacturer of the actual products. Power to plug in is perfect for portable power sources like hybrid cars and portable generators. You could install the safety device in any home that you might possibly want to plug in a hybrid car or a power generator, and then when the time comes, you'd be able to plug those in and provide power to that particular home. For more information, please visit our website.